Welcome back to RT. Now, while the final tally in the French presidential election shows Emmanuel Macron's clear majority, there is another side to the result. More people abstained from voting this time than in any election since 1969, when it was a record 31%. There's no rest for French voters either, because there's a two-round general election next month. Jacques Cheminade, who was a presidential candidate this year, believes Macron faces a huge challenge now to form a working majority in the National Assembly.
More than 25% of the electors abstained, and there were 9% null, void and white votes, which is entirely new in a French presidential election. So he won with an apparent landslide. It's 65.8%. But in fact, he got less than half of the voters. So, and 60%, 61% of the voters don't want him to have a majority in the next legislative assembly. So it's a very unstable situation. So he won, but it's a setup. It's something that has been in a way arranged by the French establishment to succeed to Hollande with a kind of new face. It's Hollande with a new face. His speech was void, but he said things that people at a certain moment want to hear. But this doesn't last. He cannot say that all the time, now that he has to confront the responsibility of the presidency.
The new president will now inherit a deeply divided France, with voter turnout in the second round at its lowest in decades. And that's something that the National Front hopes to capitalise on by increasing its seats in next month's vote. Our correspondent Daniel Hawkins explains.
Ni banquier, ni raciste. Neither the banker nor the racist became the slogan of the day at protests across France as voters struggled to choose between the unpalatable and the unacceptable. But Macron or bust was the directive from the majority of key political figures at home and abroad as they endorsed the centrist candidate. Much of the media's stance was also evident. Macron isn't perfect, but the alternative is terrifying.
Marine Le Pen, the rabble-rousing xenophobe.
She's been making her case for months, even years, but much of this country still wants nothing to do with her.
You could run a goat against Marine Le Pen and he'd win.
Message was clear. Any other choice, even a blank ballot or abstention, was tacit compliance with the rise of fascism. Just look at the attacks on Mélenchon, the only major candidate to refuse to tell his supporters exactly how to vote.
Mr. Mélenchon is totally irresponsible. He doesn't tell his supporters who to vote for, but this way he lets them vote for Le Pen.
So Mélenchon doesn't dare to lend his support to Macron. Well, he doesn't give a damn. His silence is not cool.
Mélenchon's behavior is irresponsible. We must not play with democracy. History will judge.
And with feelings running so high, who would want to be labelled a fascist?
I disagree with all of the ideas of the National Front. The fact that they came second in the first round is incredible. It is very dangerous. It makes me depressed.
Le Pen is a fascist.
I am against the National Front, Le Pen and hatred, as well as racism and all forms of nationalism.
The Macron or bust campaign reached such levels it was easy for many to think Le Pen's support base was a nationalist hardcore of xenophobes. But her followers saw things differently.
Racist is just a political argument to fight against Marine Le Pen.
We have no proposition, no words to say something racist, anti-Semitic, etc. We have a clear program.
Front National and Marine Le Pen just want to defend their country.
Well, they say we are far-right. We are not far-right. A far-right party would be anti-parliamentarian and anti-democratic. We want democracy and reform of democratic institutions.
The second round was portrayed by some as a choice between cholera and plague, but the tactics used by the political and media establishment appear to have paid off, as voters united for a repeat of the 2002 election, choosing between what they saw as the lesser of two evils. Daniel Hawkins for RT in Paris.
And of course, the news is sinking in for the French people about who their new president's going to be. And if you look behind me, that is live in Paris now. And if one thing underlines the scale of the task ahead of Emmanuel Macron, on one side it was the deafening silence from the abstaining voters, those massive people who didn't want either candidate to win. And as you can see now, yet more protests in the French capital. It's been an election campaign that's been marred by rallies on both sides, both in support and very much against, and a few rallies very much against both candidates. And here's yet another one. There were some in the immediate aftermath of the result being announced last night, and it doesn't look like any of that depth of feeling is quelling in any way, shape or form. We'll get to the bottom of exactly what's behind this rally in central Paris in the coming minutes or hours, and I'll update you as soon as we find out a little bit more.
And there's a lot of French voters. I've voted for him because I don't want Marine Le Pen to become our next president. Marine Le Pen representing a fascist party, a racist party, and so clearly I'm very, very, very happy tonight.
Marine has nothing to do with the rate of unemployment in France. She has nothing to do with the collapse of our society, nothing to do with the collapse of our healthcare system, but the people who supported Macron actually do have something in common. They have participated to the collapse of our country. So I think it's very funny to hear someone, you know, giving like moral values once again, while actually the person he voted for are responsible for what happened to France for the past 30 years. We're not talking about the real problems of our country, and we always try, you know, to find like a race debate. For the past 2 years, we have, you know, we have been brainwashed by Macron and how great he is, and he's young, you know, like meaning that because he's young, he will do better things. You know, the medias, all the political, you know, people just gather around his candidacy. And, you know, I'm very intrigued to see what's going to happen in the next few weeks and next few months, because people will realize that he has the same agenda that Hollande has, that Sarkozy has, which is to work against, you know, the profit of middle-class people, of working-class people. He's working against, you know, interests of those people. And I'm surprised that, you know, the person you're with right now, you know, if you are a true left-wing person, then you should fight against, you know, high financial power.
Already, Marine Le Pen is just called herself Marine, because she wants all the French voters to forget who is father. But now is just a point.
She's made huge moves to moderate her party, for want of a better word. It's a toxic party before. She's estranged from her father.
Please, let me explain something very important. It is just appearance. The roots of this party are racist and fascist roots.
Whatever we do, it will never be enough. It's never good. So
I'm happy that you can love today, because I think that you were crying.
Yes.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I'm laughing at you because what you say is complete nonsense. So, I mean, we're talking about program. You refuse to see the reality.
And I'm laughing at you because you are the loser tonight.
People, technically, you need to be aware. I need to, you know, to agree with me on that point that you vote for people who were in power. Okay. So if the system, and we both agree on it, that there's a lot of things to be done, and, you know, regarding like job, unemployment, regarding, you know, healthcare, regarding retirement, regarding all those people that don't have enough money to live decently. I'm sorry, but the FN and Marine Le Pen has nothing to do with it. The people you voted for have something to do with it.
One of Macron's first engagements was to attend a Victory in Europe memorial service in the heart of Paris, commemorating the end of the Second World War. He was there alongside the man he'll replace, Francois Hollande, who's pledged his support for the new president. Victory Day, of course, is commemorated in Russia tomorrow, but another milestone's already been marked. The eternal flame, marking the tomb of the unknown soldier, has now been burning near Red Square for exactly 50 years.